The world's gone crazy, nothing makes sense. Chips costing bucks a bag, you can't pay your rent. The border's wide open, white people are bad. Trainers trying to teach your kids and everybody's mad. Twisted time, there's all twisted time.
What's up, Steve?
Hi, Dave, how are you?
What is this? Oh yeah, it's a Twisted Times.
Twisted Times again, episode 5. We're getting the hang of it.
Episode 5. Holy smoke. So this is the start of the episode. It is April 4th, 2024. And yeah, man, lots going on in the world right now. But I heard you say something weird. Who is it that you agreed with today?
Yeah.
Or did you agree with them?
Oh, no. I agreed with Jimmy Kimmel today.
Stop it.
So I'm on some threads. I'm on various threads on iMessage. And this could go down a rabbit hole with me getting pissed at all the Droid users, fucking up my iMessage links. But anyway,
I hate that so much. I
hate it so much, right? But anyways, somebody sent me a link today. Jimmy Kimmel has posted something. Let me find the meme really quick with this group here. I sent it to a few people. Here it is. Jimmy Kimmel, after traveling to Japan, I realized that this place, this USA we're always chanting about, is a filthy and disgusting place. So I don't completely agree there.
Yeah.
The United States more than he does, typical hypocritical liberal.
Yeah.
But in this USA we're always chanting about, he doesn't understand, and neither do most of the snowflake liberals. They don't understand what we're chanting for, the patriotism side and the love of the flag and the country and the people that died for it. They don't get it. But where I agree with Jimmy Kimmel is Japan is better than us in nearly every way. Certainly way.
You do realize you're starting to sound like Mr. Wilson, right? The whole country is going to crap.
That's how every 5 years. Every 5 years, I sound more like my old grandpa Chuck, who used to smoke cigarettes and write letters to the editor. But yes, nice. I do think that here's the fact. I mean, we've talked about this a little bit, I think, in episode 1. There's a few places in the world that haven't yet been either ruined or dominated by Western culture. And Western culture is the evil. It is, for sure, and the ones that we're beholden to. In that underneath the hood, above the hood, we love all things America. But when you look underneath the hood, most of it's broken, and broken pretty badly. And there's a few places in the world that aren't that way. They're just not. Somehow, they've been able to maintain a position of strength away from the U.S. Arm wrestling to maintain their identity. And Japan is most certainly one of those. They're nothing like us. So Jimmy Kimmel was right today.
What is it that you love about Japan?
You know what? Growing up in Detroit, ever since I was a kid, I wonder why everything was so broken. And it's way more broken now. 50 years later, it's way more broken now than it was when I thought it was broken. But I thought, man, how can there be all these ghettos? How can there be all this trash? Why are there all these murders? Why are there all these crime rates? Why all the police? Why are the schools such a wreck? This is I'm going to elementary school in Detroit in 1976. So how is there all this danger? Well, think about it. It's all these years later, everything's worse. And the people that go, well, we don't see it that way. Our public schools are great. Okay, you live in a bubble. You live in a little bubble, and you've never even looked at traditional school systems to understand what's actually out there in the world versus traditional schools, but you're also in a bubble. The public schools today are an absolute train wreck, and it doesn't mean that great kids don't do great and get through it and go to great universities and get smart. It doesn't mean that at all. But what it means is the majority we're not getting the most out of the majority. And so I can bring up stat after stat after stat after stat that looks at school systems around the world, and the United States is nowhere near the top in any of them anymore. You can look at it. You can break it apart by individual studies. You can break it apart by age groups. You can break it apart by general studies, achievement rates, literacy rates, whatever you want. We're not in the top of anything anymore. Yet we let the same groups control education. So I'm talking about stuff like that. Where you look at Japan, you look at the more educated countries like Switzerland, they're at the top of everything. Ask yourself why. don't be dominated by media for a second and ask yourself why. So
where did it start to go wrong? I mean, when did we lose that leadership position, or have we ever had it?
I think we had it. I think we clearly were the most innovative country in the world through the 50s, right? For sure we were. I think in the 60s, it began to go south. And here we are 60 years later from the 60s, 65 years later from the 60s. And it's taken a toll. If you look at JFK's death and the beginning of really the dullest years, he's the one behind most of what happened to this country. He's the guy that 99.9% of all the students who graduate from schools don't even know who he is. His name's on an airport in Washington, D.C., but nobody knows who he is. He's the guy that pulled the strings to do all this and put us in the position we're in. And I don't know if he was being led by somebody else or not, but it was the beginning of the degradation of our moral and ethical side. And I think that's when people talk about Japan, they say, well, we're going to be like Japan. Well, you can't just be like Japan. You can't flip a switch and be like Japan. They have decade after century of building the culture and the morals and the ethics you need for a great society. And you can't get that back quickly. So I do remember when I was a young kid going, well, how the hell do we fix this? How do we fix the fact that the white parents and the black parents want to kill each other in Detroit when busing started and people start leaving all at one time? How do we fix it? And you begin to think about it and go, well, we've got to get this generation to agree with this generation. And we can only we don't fix that with a switch of a flick of a switch. So how are we going to fix it? The fact of the matter is, I have no idea how you're going to fix it in America. I have no idea. But when people like Jimmy Kimmel, a typical super loud, raging, liberal, sellout, globalist puppet, throw out something like his first visit to Japan, which is so, by the way, that is probably the episode's title, Jimmy's first visit to Japan, because Jimmy goes to Japan, a place he's never been to before, but he has all these opinions beforehand about America being something that they're not, and decides that, hey, this is how it should look. America's filthy and disgusting. Well, we knew America was dirty and in trouble a long time ago. I'm probably never going to call America disgusting. It's disgusting that punk would do it, but we are dirty. We are dangerous. We are super in debt, and we are way behind everybody else right now. All of our competition.
We're out of control in spending. We're out of control in every area. Our borders are insecure. We are the homeless problem in the United States. We're pouring all this money into foreign interests when in our own country our veterans are homeless. We are and not to rag on what's going on right now, but I'm astounded by what's going on with these squatters laws, where there's I mean, we knew we didn't really own property before, but now there are places in the United States right now where people are squatting in houses, and it's impossible to evict them.
We're selling our house in Michigan, our second home in Michigan, for that reason. We're not there enough to be there, and I don't want to deal with Gretchen Whitmer, so we're going to sell that home because we're not there enough to put up with the insanity of having to evict somebody from property that you never let them into in the first place. Hey, listen, this is what I mean. Okay. This is what I mean. This is insane. So dirty, dangerous, behind. But here's what I did recently. So we're going to go my family's going to go spend some long periods of time abroad. We're going to go to some of these other places I talk about. We're going to go let our kids go to school there and spend some time experiencing cultures that I think are in better position than we are, and look at America from afar for a little bit. Never giving up that U.S. citizenship, but just looking at things from afar, try living abroad for a little bit and see how that goes. But anyways, I was talking
sorry, one question. Can you even get fantasy football over there? Are you going to be able to watch the Lions? Like how are you going to keep your culture in that regard?
If you think for a second that I have researched all things NFL, the town we're going to go to has a rugby team. They actually have football from age 5 and up. We can play a little rugby with my kids. They actually have a football team there that is named after the Lions. And
Okay.
and I could probably help out from a coaching or helping, part there. So
Like American football?
yeah, American football.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So we'll figure out football. But
So sorry, you were talking to your wife.
no, I was talking to my wife and I said, listen, I'm gonna send you a link. And this is a leading Swiss newspaper that in English. I want you to read that for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then go pick any newspaper in the United States. I don't care what news site you use. It could be anything from the New York Times to CNN to the New York Post to the Washington Post to the Wall Street Journal. Just pick any one or two of them and go visit the Swiss news site before or after and tell me what you think. And she comes back out and she goes, oh my God, this is unbelievable. This is one side is talking about business and life and infrastructure and taxes, and the other one's talking about Cardi B and Stormy Daniels, and usually race riots and this, that, and the other. So it's so broken at every level, and we've talked about it in some previous episodes. I mean, how do you fix it? You got to get control of the media. How do you do that? The Supreme Court didn't act in 2020. Nobody had standing to bring any lawsuits, according to them. They haven't acted on anything in 2022. They've done a few things this year, but nothing major. They haven't overturned abortion, although the Jimmy Kimmels of the world say they have. So how do you fix it? And in this next election, there's enough polls that I look at that let me think that the Dems might sweep everything. We all think there might be a red wave. There could be a blue wave. There could absolutely be a blue wave when you combine mail-in voting and the media manipulation and the social media manipulation. There could be a sweep on the blue side. And then what?
Are we really going to let illegal immigrants vote? Is that really happening this early?
Again, I don't know. I mean, you look, I'll compare it again to the country I'm studying the most right now, Switzerland. So you take a look at Switzerland. They currently have a population just under 9 million, and they wouldn't replace that population at the 2-to-1 rate you need to stay healthy with natural birth rates, with citizen birth rates. They got to have immigration. With the EU letting their citizens roam free between borders, the Swiss, especially the Conservative Party in charge, doesn't want it to get out of control. So the Swiss have proposed a maximum cap of 10 million people in Switzerland by 2050. All right, so stop.
Wow. Okay.
So 26 years from now, they don't want Switzerland to grow by more than 1 million people, which is a little over 10%. Meanwhile, the United States will be 10 million illegal people over the border a year under this administration. So you tell me, I mean, get anybody on this show and tell me how we're going to fix any of this. And no one is really having an intelligent conversation about what's broken. Think about the 3 political leaders we listen to the most today. We listen to Trump, Biden, and RFK. That's who we listen to the most.
Yep. Yep. 100% agree.
Everybody else is out there and considered insane. Actually, some of these people may be insane. But if you look at Trump, Trump just says, we're going to kick them all out. We're going to kick on day one. We're going to kick them all out.
Yep.
You're not going to kick them all out on day one. Matter of fact, kicking them all out is going to be next to impossible.
Yep.
I'm not real sure what you're going to do. I believe you'll close the border. I believe you'll shut down this illegal side. I believe that'll help. But you're not kicking everybody out. Biden wants to expand it. He's only getting going. So if he gets in and he's got the House and or the Senate, it's never going to stop. And RFK, so Biden's not talking about anything else, by the way. Biden's tell me what he's talking about. He is he's waiving some tuition in an election year. That's a whatever. His electric car policy is a complete and utter failure, like any business person knew it was going to be. Smart people aren't going to drive cars that run out of power, trip, and be stuck. They're not going to do it. And so you can mandate all you want from Washington, D.C., the states in general, not the coasts who will do anything DC blue bloods tell them to do, but the middle part of the country is going to say, fuck you, I'm not doing any of that. In Tennessee, we most certainly aren't doing it. SUVs are at an all-time high. Gas-powered SUVs are at an all-time high right now in the state of Tennessee. And I think I went out and bought an F-150, I think the day the last law passed, just to whatever. So Tell me what Biden is doing or talking about that's remotely innovative or interesting. The only guy out there addressing some of the issues, the real issues, is RFK, and we've talked about it. But even his stuff, I mean, he's let himself get labeled anti-vaxxer, and he hasn't fought back with an effective enough PR campaign.
Yeah.
And I really don't feel sorry for these guys that have a ton of money that don't fight back effectively. It's how I feel about Donald Trump. Donald Trump's got billions of dollars, but he doesn't put any of it into a communications and PR package.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never understood it. I mean, they're calling you everything in the world. You could be so much more effective at communicating outwardly, but you're not. You're in the weeds all the time, or you're not. But either way, you don't communicate. So if you don't communicate better and get control of the media, tell me how you're going to take control of this thing, because I don't get it.
Are there just out of curiosity, it's an aside, but are there any politicians right now that you think are decent? Like is there anybody on the scene right now that like Rand Paul? I mean, there are things I love about Rand Paul, but is he like who would you consider to be effective politicians right now?
Well, I don't know if effective and forthright are the same thing, because I don't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know that a forthright politician can get anything done.
Could be effective. Yeah. Yeah.
But do I think Rand Paul's an honest, forthright, patriotic politician? Yeah, 100% I do. Do I think the same thing to a certain degree about Joe Manchin? To a certain degree, I do.
Yeah.
Manchin saved this country from the John Lewis Voting Act.
Sure did.
If he voted on that, we wouldn't even, 2024 election would already be gone.
Yep.
If DC gets to mandate how we control votes in states, no ID anywhere, blaming it on racism, that's what that Voting Act was going to do. And Manchin and Kristen Sinema stopped it. But
Manchin's leaving, so we're losing that voice of reason.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying he's completely reasonable, but I'm saying Joe Manchin did some really good things. Rand Paul doesn't plan on going anywhere. I think Jim Jordan's an outstanding human being. They tried to smear him with a wrestling thing, 5 years ago. That didn't stick at all because the guy's so clean, it's crazy. Yeah. And I think he's a very good man. I think JD Vance is a very good man, and a loud voice. I think Tim Scott's a good man that's meaningful. I love Tulsi Gabbard, even though I don't agree with 50% of her policies. I like her too. I love Kristi Noem. So I love RFK. I love RFK. I completely and utterly disagree with his VP pick, and he's trying to do all he can to prop her up. I really think that pick sealed it for a lot of us that were on the fence about whether to support him or not. I certainly immediately put him in my no list.
Do not vote. Yep.
Choosing Sergey Brin's ex-wife, who has donated to the Biden campaign, is not going to get you the heart of most libertarian/conservatives.
I mean, the good news is he's going to take more votes from Biden at this point. He'll take more votes from Biden than Trump, I think.
Yeah. Well, yes. So what we really need to do right now, we need RFK to get effective on the communication stuff.
Yeah.
He needs to buy some airtime. He needs to get his message out there. He needs to put her out there as much as he possibly can, and that will siphon votes from Biden.
For sure it will.
Her message is a liberal coastal woman's dream. And so those are the people that vote for Joe Biden.
So what do you think is going to happen with Joe Biden? Just what's your gut on what happens with him? Is he going to make it to the election? I've heard some people say they think he's going to drop out in June and somebody else is going to come in and take his place.
He can't do it. I mean, he can't. The only one that can take his place, I think we talked about this on one of the episodes. The only one that can take his place is Kamala Harris in most of the states. It's not a federal law, but in most of the states, you've got to have your ticket tight before they approve the ballot. And so they'd have to go get back on ballots with a new candidate. And by the time the convention kicks around, it's too late in most of the states. So it's going to be Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. And no, I think, listen, if you look at the polling, interactive polling, some of the other ones, they're showing Biden leading nationally. They're showing him leading today in a couple of polls in Pennsylvania. You can never trust the Pennsylvania vote, but sometimes you can trust the Rasmussen or some of the other polls. And the polls don't look good for Trump in Pennsylvania. So I don't know, Dave. You know what the thing is about polls? It's so early still. Every year we start talking election in March and April and June, May and June. They don't really start to mean anything until July, late July, August, and then opinions start to solidify and all the spending starts to ramp up. And the spending the last couple of elections has veered from traditional TV spending to digital, and Google has been, in concert with some of the shenanigans going on there.
Will the outcome of the election change your plans for the next 18 months in any way?
Well, we're leaving in August or September for a year.
Regardless, okay.
To be broad, because I don't. Let's look at the election's a big part of it, but it's certainly not the only part of it. I would say the election's 25% of it. I think America's in bad shape right now, and I want to look at the country from afar. And I love America. I'm going to still be a U.S. citizen, but I'm going to go take a break. I haven't taken a break from being here for a year in my life. I've taken long breaks. I've been in France for a long period of time, off and on, but I haven't gone as an adult with kids and the whole thing and gone and lived somewhere else and see what that's like. So we're going to leave no matter what and just check it out. But we're not selling our home in Tennessee. We're not doing any of that stuff.
Okay.
That being said, if Trump wins, between the time he wins and the time he gets inaugurated, I expect chaos, complete and utter chaos. And
it's not a bad time not to be here anyway, then. That's
right. That's where my head's at. If Biden wins, I believe the Republicans don't really know how to commit chaos. They don't really know how to they're not in the Dems playbook to go, bring in third parties like Antifa and do all your dirty work for you and have nobody go to jail for that whatsoever. But in Trump's case, have a peaceful rally in DC, have people go down the street and go into the Capitol building. And, I forget how many hundreds, if not thousands of them are in a DC jail right now.
They
don't know how to compete with the Dems on creating chaos. So if Biden wins, I would expect the Republicans and the conservatives and libertarians to do nothing. And I would expect them to turn up what they've already done. Look, man, I got to be honest with you. In America, considered a long time a Christian country. For Joe Biden to declare Easter Sunday a day of gender visibility, and in synchronicity, Justin Trudeau does the same thing. I forget, several other leaders around the world the same day did the same thing. I'm trying to think of what woman leader did it, and it came out of the blue. I'm blanking out right now. But anyways, they all get their marching orders from somewhere. And that day, they all decided to create this transgender day of visibility on one of the holiest days of the Christian church. And you and I, you're more religious than I, but you and I both understand pretty clearly where Easter comes from and the symbolism it represents pre-organized religion. And for them to go after that day is such an obvious attack on the status quo, right?
It really is.
They really think they're invincible at this point.
That's just bizarre. Well, listen, man, I think we're pretty much at time right now. Next time we come back and have the next episode, I really want to dig into that Japan thing a little bit. I want to talk a little bit more about Japan and dig into those 4 countries you talked about a little bit. And man, I love what you're doing for your family. I'm scared for the country, and we'll see what plays out in the next few months here. But what would you leave us with, man? What's your final thought for this episode?
I want people to think. I want people to get angry. I want them to be smarter about what's happening here. Pick your subject, whether it is the establishment attack on religion, whether it's condition of the schools. If you're smart enough to understand the debt, and nearly nobody in this country is, if you understand what they're doing and the debt they're driving us into and what that means with certainty for the US dollar down the road, get angry, vote these people out, take a stand, because enough is enough. This is now the beginning. It's probably not. It's probably the middle chapter of our descent that may be impossible to come back out of.
It's time to take action, everyone. This has been the Twisted Times. We'll see you soon. There's all twisted time. These are the twisted times.